Well, welcome to the Gathering Podcast. I am with my big brother. I don't know if you can see the resemblance. Roberson, Pierre.
Bros, blood brothers too.
That's right. Thank you so much for being here, Roberson.
Thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely. I want to say to all of our listeners, welcome to the Gathering Podcast. We're so glad you're tuning in. This Friday, we hope that this episode is going to bless you. Our mission is always the same, to reach and empower this generation, be the greatest influencers of today. And so we're grateful that we can come alongside your journey of faith and empower you. And so we hope to do that today. We got a special episode. Because we're with Roberson Pierre from Jubilee Church. And we're going to have a really raw, honest, vulnerable conversation. A conversation that I think is absolutely necessary for the time that we are in our nation. And so I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for your honesty. And I'm going to introduce you in just a moment. Please do subscribe to Apple Podcast, Gathering Podcast on Apple. Follow us on Spotify, and you can catch us on basically anywhere, Apple's podcast, Spotify, and also our website, gatheringgen.com, as you can catch all these episodes there. So please do share this episode. If it's a blessing to you, let your friends know about it. All of that is a blessing. It all matters. It all counts. And we're grateful for all that you are doing to get this message out. Well, without further ado, welcome, Roberson Pierre.
What's up, family? How y'all doing?
How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you.
Dude, you're doing an incredible job here. This is so amazing. And I'm so proud to know you and be connected. And I love what you're doing. I love your family and all the things that you guys are doing for your city and just this country. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to get real and talk and just dive into ways we all can just grow together. Yeah, that's what it's about. I think it's so important to have conversation right now, where we are living in a culture that's polarized. It's divided. There's a lot of tension. I think we must have conversations. Absolutely.
Because conversations lead to growth.
Absolutely.
And so we're going to get into that a whole lot more. But before we do, Roberson is a youth and young adult pastor at Jubilee Church in Boston. Yeah. You have a campus in Worcester?
We have Boston, Stoughton, and Worcester.
Stoughton, right. That's right. Yeah. So 3 campuses.
3 campuses.
I think it's the largest church in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Incredible church.
It's a blessing, man. God has just trusted us with a work that we continuously are grateful for. Yeah. And we just are praying that we can steward it the best way possible. We're learning, we're growing. We love one another. We're learning from one another. Yeah. And this is just an opportunity to, Jubilee is an opportunity for any believer to just come and experience Jubilee for themselves. Yeah. Just the joy of the Lord and the favor of the Lord upon their lives. And so it's a blessing to just be a part of the team. It's a blessing to just come in and worship. Yeah. Even in these times when we are quarantined and different phases throughout. But it's a blessing to just experience God in the Jubilee community and with just the church at large. So,
where can people get connected to Jubilee Church?
You can find Jubilee on any social media platform, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. That's Jubilee Boston. You can also follow us on live stream, Jubilee Boston. Or you could, if you want more information, you could head over to our website, jubileeboston.org.
Word. I love your church. We love
you, man.
I love we were just talking offline about the spiritual intensity that is Jubilee Church. And
we go hard, man. There's just no other way to go.
There's no other way to go.
We just go hard when it comes to going after God and feeling the presence and praying. We're a praying church. Yeah. We're a church without walls. Yeah. And we believe in just breaking walls that divide us from God and one another. Yeah. And so we love going after God with everything that we have. My spiritual father, Pastor Matthew Thompson, says the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. Wow. And so it's we go hard in everything. Yeah. Everything that we do, we want it to be the best. And so the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So
yeah, that is so good. Thank you for sharing about your church. Roberson you're a dad.
Yeah.
You're a husband. How's your family doing in quarantine?
Quarantine. Quarantine. I love my family. I swear I do. I do.
Man, quarantine's exposing everything.
I have a house with all girls. Okay. So I have 2 little girls, Robin and Jamie. All right.
Yeah.
Robin is 3 going on 30. Okay. She's
3 going on.
She's everyone's boss all around the house.
Yep.
Okay.
Firstborn
daughter. And she's just a trailblazer on her own. Okay. She thinks she runs my whole entire life. Like our conversations, like I've gotten to the point where I had to start taping our conversations because if she gets in trouble after she goes to timeout or something, she demands a conversation.
Yeah.
So she's like, no, Daddy, we need to talk about this. Yeah. Okay. I didn't appreciate this. Well, I don't think this is right. And I'm like, you are 3 years old. That's her. Then I have a 1-year-old who during quarantine found her voice and she wants to make sure she's heard every time. So what she does at any given time is just scream at the top.
There you go. You're on a Zoom call.
Yep.
You got one girl questioning you. You got the other girl screaming.
No, I'm on a Zoom call. It doesn't matter if I'm working. It doesn't matter if I'm sleeping. It doesn't. Listen, she wants her voice to be heard. It's just amazing. Right. And my wife and I, we're just trying to manage them. So we've learned so much during quarantine about them. Yeah. They've learned so much about us, and it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing in disguise. I mean, when we first entered this thing, who knew how long it was going to be and what the outcomes were going to be? But throughout it all, our family just had time to just sit down and really process with one another, really learn with one another, continue to dream with one another. Yeah. We've prayed with one another more than we've ever prayed before. Wow. And so, I was sharing with you earlier that our church has a morning prayer culture where every Monday through Saturday we have morning prayer in the morning. Right. So I would go to morning prayer in the mornings drive when we were out of quarantine, but now morning prayer is online. Yeah. And God has been speaking to me about my daughters during this thing because religiously at 5:45 in the morning, my daughter wakes up and she is fixed on the phone. She wants to come with me so we can watch morning prayer together and pray. Amazing. She's 3 years old.
That's amazing.
And at first I thought it was cool, but then I was like, okay, God, you're saying something here because it's as if it's an alarm clock. I hear her running down the hallway and she is ready for morning prayer. She calls Pastor Matt Papa. So she's like, it's time for Papa. It's time to pray. It's time to pray. And so, I stay in bed and we praying and once a week I get up and I go downstairs and pray, like we have a prayer room and stuff. Yeah. And so she remembers the day. She's like, Daddy, you gonna get up today. Let's go. We're going to pray. And she will mimic what I'm doing. She'll lift her hands. Oh my gosh, beautiful. And so it's like, these are opportunities that I felt like I wouldn't have had. Right. By the time, I'm out the house at 5:30 in the morning to get to church at 6 for morning prayer, and she's still sleeping. Wow. And so I'm seeing what God is saying about her destiny and what she's passionate about even during this quarantine.
That's amazing. I need your 3-year-old daughter to lay hands on my 2-year-old daughter, and maybe the anointing can transfer.
Oh man, listen, okay? She's an Eaton, so you guys are definitely anointed. You guys have that generational anointing passing on, okay? Right. So I haven't met like your whole entire family.
I know. So well, I have a newborn son.
Yes.
3 months, Winston. You like that name?
That's such a dope name.
Yeah, it is, Winston.
And I'm praying for a son. Yeah. I was like, I want a son so bad.
We're going to pray after this.
Yeah, let's do it. Listen, you need to lay hands on me to get that son anointed.
While your 3-year-old's laying hands on my 2-year-old, I'm going to lay hands on you.
Listen, we're going
to break all the COVID rules. Roberson, you're a father, you're a husband, you're a pastor, but you're also now an author.
Yes.
And you just wrote a book, and it's out now. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on RobersonPierre.com. But it's called Target.
Yes.
Can you tell us the heart of this book, Target? Why did you write it? What is the message? I would love for all of our listeners, you need to get this book. Yeah. You need to pick up this book. But go ahead and tell us about it.
So this is a book that God gave me, really. The subtitle is Hit the Mark on Leadership Despite Your Mistakes. And this is the book I wish I had when I first started out leading and knowing that God was calling me to lead my generation, to lead my community. Yeah. Throughout the whole time, there are so many things that I was going through when I first started leading. When I first started officially like leading in ministry, I was 17 years old.
Okay.
All right. So I was a youth leader, and
You
I
were a
was
youth leader.
Yeah, I was a youth leader
17.
at 17. So it's like I was out there just serving, and I didn't know anything. I mean, I've been going to the church, but I didn't necessarily know the ins and outs of leadership and how to respect well, how to honor well in a church setting, and just how to really lead with integrity.
Yeah.
And throughout my whole leadership journey, from 17, and I went to college at Boston College. I was leading in the local church. I got an opportunity to be the director of a nonprofit organization in my junior year of college. Wow. And so I began to lead, and it began to go from one phase to the next, from one level to the next. But I was making so many mistakes. I just had to be honest. I was making so many mistakes.
Yeah. We all make mistakes.
Exactly.
Some of us are honest about it.
Exactly. And so when God gave me this book, I was in a time where I was being offered one of the biggest leadership opportunities to date. It was a nonprofit organization. And they were responsible for our conference every year of over 2,500 youth and young adults, all across the New England area. There was a tour involved, preaching tour involved. I was leading a staff of about maybe 15 people, and they were older and younger than me. At this point, I was 21. I was 21.
Oh my goodness!
I was 21, and I said, you know what? I need to know how to do this. Now, I've read books, but there was something that was just missing on how I could effectively lead in the context of where I was. Yeah. And in an urban setting, leading it with just not just leading an organization really well, but also leading myself well, leading my family well. And so I locked myself in a library at Boston College. I remember it like it was yesterday, for a week straight. I fasted, I prayed, and I called as many leaders and directors that would answer my call to have conversations about leadership, to have conversations what true success really looks like, just to really, really dive into it. And so, and out of that came this acronym TARGET. And it is a way to lead without losing yourself. It is a way to lead and be successful and be honorable. So many people are leading organizations well, but then their families are just like, they're not leading that well. It's a way to lead and be balanced. And it's a way to lead with respect and with honor and with excellence. And so I amassed all of this information that was coming from Fortune CEO companies, that was coming from the local youth pastors that I admired, local senior pastors that I admired, politicians, nonprofit directors, all of them. So I amassed all this information, and I prayed and I read scripture, and anyone that was willing to have a conversation with me, I had, and through it, God gave me this model. So I've been leading with this model since I was 21 years old, and I'm 29 now, and it's been something that I teach to all of my teams. I teach it to every youth ministry team, every young adult ministry team. Everything that I do, everybody knows that I do it by Target. And Target stands for truth. That is Jesus Christ. That's our why. That's the reason why we're leading in the first place. It's not about money. It's not about fame. It's not about a stage. It's not about popularity. It's not about likes. It's not about shares. You know what I'm saying? It's based on what God is calling us to really do. And it stands for anointing. T stands for truth. A stands for anointing, which is leading with the anointing, regardless of the area, regardless of your sector. You can be an anointed graphic designer and lead well and be anointed. You can be an anointed pastor. You can be an anointed admin. You can be, so really talking about the ways the anointing fits into every single aspect that we do. R stands for respect, being a respectable leader, having character and integrity, honoring our leaders, honoring those that came before us, the generation above us, just really understanding how that takes a play. If you don't honor, you don't succeed. And success is not just about you. Success is about the next generation, and you reap what you sow. So we have to learn how to sow honor each and every single day. We have to learn how to give honor where honor is due. So I talk a lot about that in the book, and I talk about growth. G is for growth, and just making sure that wherever you're positioned in leadership, you're growing. You're not just growing personally, but you're growing the organization. Yeah. You're growing where you are. You're growing the people that God has called you to serve.
Stewarding. I mean, that's
exactly. E is for excellence, making sure that you're doing this well. Like when I walk in here today, it's like you're leading in excellence. There's a level of readiness. There's a level of organization. There's a level of intentionality. And excellence has nothing to do with money. You don't need you don't need to have a huge budget to be excellent. Right. You just need to be intentional. You need to be organized. You need to research.
So excellence isn't something like, because I think because we might have a lot of youth leaders, youth pastors, young adult pastors, and pastors in general listening to this right now. And I think the excuse might be, I don't have all the money.
Exactly.
I don't have the resources. So that's why I can't be like this or do this.
Yeah.
What would you speak to that on this point of excellence?
Caleb, this is my 5th year being a youth young adult pastor at Jubilee. I grew up in the local Haitian church. All right. They would call it the storefront church. I grew up where I've led in church where the church couldn't fit more than 100 people in the room. Right. All right. And I've been in a church that could fit thousands of people in the room. And I've been in the position where I've had to raise every single penny in my budget. All right. And I've been in the position where my budget gets given to me January 1st and saying, here's what you have for the ministry that year. And what I've noticed is that excellence did not change when I got a budget. Wow. All right. It did not change. Wow. I came to meetings prepared. I showed up on time. That doesn't take money. That takes discipline. Excellence has more to do with
You don't need a budget to show up on time.
You don't need budget to show up on time. You don't need budget to give out an agenda. Yeah. You don't need budget to make sure that there's consistent meetings. You don't need budget to make sure that everything starts and ends when you say it's going to start and end. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You don't need budget to be creative. And the times that I was most creative and excellent were actually the times where I did not have a budget.
Say that.
If anything, there are sometimes a budget limited my level of excellence.
Wow.
And creativity. Yeah. And so I've had retreats with 90 youth where I have to raise $5,000 on my own, and we were having car washes in the back of the church.
Shout out to bake sales, and car wash.
Listen, bake sales, car washes, raising money, and all of these different things. And it's all about being intentional. Yeah. It's all about having discipline. It's all about you respecting organization, respecting yourself and your teams. Respecting that, respecting one another's time and one another's gifts and one another's talent, and to make sure that when you present them before God, it's nothing that you throw together last minute, but it's something that you put together in a way that God has your best. Yes. Excellence is about giving God your best to your core. Right. When you have nothing and when you have something.
Come on.
And so that's what
it's really who you are. Yeah. It's not what you have. Or you could even say it's what you do with what you have.
Exactly.
You could have a lot, you could have a little, but what are you doing with it?
Exactly. And the thing about it is what the people receive, whether you have little or whether you have a lot, can still be the same thing. When I was preaching to 50 and then when I was preaching to 1,000, they're still receiving the same thing. And in the same way, it's still me. And I think a lot of times we reserve ourselves. Yep. We reserve the things that are in us, the gifts that are in us, and the push and the grind that's in us. We reserve it for when we actually can get to a greater level. No, you got to go hard now.
That's right.
It's all or nothing now. You got to do your best services now. You got to lead in the best way that you can lead right now. And so, that's excellent. And the last one is talent. It talks about like managing talent, and what to do with your talents and how to steward your talents. And so through that, everything that we do, every single thing that we do as a ministry, as I do as a leader, it has to go through Target. It has to fit that. And all in all, before I got there, and even after I got that, I was making mistakes. And for some reason, I noticed that no one is talking about the mistakes they made. Right. And I learned so much. No one is talking about like the times where they made, it's not the most popular topic for leaders to just get up and say, listen, I messed up here once, I messed up here. And so
I love the title of your recent video you just posted on YouTube. What is it?
The sex video?
Yeah, what is it called?
This is for single leaders who can't stop having sex.
Yeah.
And so it's a reality.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I said in the video, it's like, this is the truth of where some of us are. But the thing is, we never talk about it until something happens.
Wow.
You know, sex as it relates to leadership for singles, it's not a topic that is always talked about. But whenever someone falls or somebody gets pregnant, whenever it gets out and a parent gets called, or whenever it's the organization's reputation is at stake, we want to bring it to the table. And it's like, no, let's talk about it now. So you're single and you're in leadership and you're having a hard time with purity, with, you know, waiting for marriage. Let's talk about it right now. And so a lot of these things, a lot of these topics it's that. And, you know, for me personally, I struggled with that. You know, me and my wife, before we got married, I was that leader that was trying to lead, but trying to say, God, can you please teach me and show me how to stay pure? And we managed to figure it out in the last 3-4 years before we got married. But it took some falls. Yeah. We had some ups and we had some downs. It took accountability. Yeah. And I wanted to make sure that I honored God in the way that he delivered me by sharing these stories. God delivered me from mistakes. My mistakes, they didn't kill me. My mistakes didn't kill my ministry, didn't kill my future, didn't kill my purpose. And so for anyone that's watching right now, I wrote this book for you. That's listening right now too. I wrote this book for you. If you've made mistakes, they're not going to stop you. They're not going to kill you. You got to learn from them. And then you're going to get to a place one day where God's going to give you the opportunity to honor him because he delivered you from them and you still kept on going. Come on. I had sex in college and I'm still here as a pastor, leading, writing about it. Yeah. You know, and trying to help somebody that is called to lead their generation into freedom. Yeah. You know, understand that they can do it too and they can move forward.
So there's hope. And there's hope. If you're a leader listening right now, your failures don't define you. In fact, it might just be that failure that if you deal with it before it becomes something bigger later, if you deal with it now, that might just be, God might just use that for your platform later.
Absolutely.
If you would just allow, someone to speak into that space and not just hide it. We were talking on the phone a couple of weeks ago, I think, and we were just talking about how if we continue to avoid things, the devil tends to invade them. Yeah. When we avoid them, the devil invades them. And so listen, be honest and open about your failures because that will propel you to even a greater platform later. Yeah. And it'll be a way that God uses you to be relatable because all of us fail. Like I said earlier, it's just some of us are honest about it and vulnerable enough for it. And thank God for this book that you get honest and vulnerable and you're now able to speak into the hearts of people and this message is so good and it's so helpful and it's I think it's going to be life-changing for so many people. So how can people get this book? What is the best way of getting a copy?
Book is available on Amazon or you can go to my website, robersonpierre.com to get yourself a copy. And now once you get it, I would love to hear what you guys think, feedback and conversations about this book so far has been amazing. This is freeing people. To be open and learn and grow. And so I'm excited to be a part of that conversation.
Get a copy now. Don't waste your time. I got my copy and I read the first chapter on truth and it was so helpful and I related to it so much as a pastor especially. And so, but this book isn't just for pastors, right?
No, this is
everybody.
You know, if you're saved and you believe Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, I believe you're called to a life of leadership. Yep. Right? Because God didn't just say, just be saved and be happy and go ahead. He said, no, go out and preach my message. Go out and save. Go out and increase the kingdom. That's leadership.
That's right.
And so I believe if you declaring God to be your Lord and Savior, you're a leader. And so this book is for any and every single person that says, Jesus, I'm with you and therefore I'm leading.
That is so good.
It's for the father that's leading a home. It's for the son that's a part of a team. Yeah. It's for the daughter that's just trying to figure out how she's going to make the cheerleading. It's for everybody, any age, and any gender. And this is what we're called to. We're called to lead, especially in these times.
Amen. We're born for this.
Born for this.
We were born for such a time as this. So we're gonna switch gears, and Roberson and I, we're gonna have a conversation on race, diversity, ethnicity. We want to really speak into the racial tension that exists in our nation right now.
Yeah.
And we want to just have a raw conversation. And for someone that's listening right now, you might be saying, I've heard so much on this conversation already. Mm-hmm. And I just, as an introduction, I want to just speak to that. Yeah, you're right. We have heard so much, but we're not going to stop talking about this.
Come on.
This is something that is not a side conversation. It is a kingdom conversation.
Come on. Yep.
This is not a political conversation. It is a kingdom conversation. And so if you've heard a lot about it, well, guess what? We're not going to stop.
Yeah.
And this is going to be something that we have to talk about until Jesus comes back. And so just for those listening that might be like, yeah, I've heard, well, just tune in, stay engaged. And I know that this is going to be a blessing because I love your perspective, Roberson. And so I'm just going to kind of interview Roberson for the next 20, 30, 40 minutes. We don't really know. We can do whatever we want.
Listen.
So
we can do whatever we want.
I mean, dinner's coming, but whatever. So
listen, we good.
So let me ask you this. Can you just tell us like the snapshot, the summary of your upbringing, kind of like how you grew up, maybe some challenges, some triumphs. Mm-hmm. If you could just give us a summary of your upbringing.
So, for me, my mom moved, she immigrated from Haiti. Mm-hmm. She didn't know she was pregnant with me at the time. Mm-hmm. So when she got here, she realized she was pregnant. And so I was born in Boston. But my mom she was still trying to figure out school, work, and all that stuff. And she was married. My dad was still living in Haiti. Mm-hmm. So she decided to send me back to Haiti to live with my aunt and uncle. Okay. So I lived in Haiti for about 9 years. I would travel back and forth to Boston for vacations and such. All right. And so at 9 years old, my mom pretty much moved me back to Boston for good. Mm-hmm. At that time, my father had passed away. And so she ended up getting remarried, and so just started a new life.
How old were you when your dad passed away?
My dad actually passed away before I hit 1 year old. Okay, 1 year old. So pretty much by the time I moved back to Boston, my mom already had been remarried, and I knew I'm really cool with my stepdad. So it was a great relationship. But fast forward 5 years, my mom passes away. I'm 14 years old. Mm-hmm. And so, and over those 5 years, our relationship wasn't the best. She was very abusive. I share a lot of that in the book and different things like that. I endured a lot of abuse, and come to find out she was really sick, and it was a huge secret. She didn't tell anyone. Wow. And so she was trying to grapple with all of that. And so, by age 14, I've been to pretty much the Haitian American system as it relates to education. Mm-hmm. And middle school comes. I go to the William Barton Rogers Middle School in Hyde Park, Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. Pretty diverse school, and loved the school, loved the neighborhood. I love the city of Hyde Park. I love that town. And then I go to Boston Latin Academy. High school. Boston Latin Academy High School is one of the most diverse high schools in the country. Wow. It's an exam school. So they at a very early time, they decided that they wanted it to be diverse. Mm-hmm. So they are very particular about making sure that they're about 20% white, 20% black, 20% Hispanic, still to this day.
Strategic.
They're very strategic about that. And so through high school, I've had this very diverse community. Yeah. I was leading in high school. I was a part of so many different clubs and groups and things like that. And at the end of high school is when I started doing ministry, really, junior, senior year. Yeah. And then after that, went to BC. BC is completely different from Boston Latin Academy. All right. BC is a predominantly white school. Okay. But I received a scholarship to go to Boston College. And so what ended up happening was that the scholarship that I received, I started college early, like maybe 3 months early. I started in end of June, early July.
Can I ask you were you someone that was killing it academically?
No.
Okay.
It was like, listen, I was, Yeah, I mean, I graduated like a 3.0, 3.1.
Okay.
And when I got to the scholarship, though, was really for leaders. It's like a leadership scholarship. Yeah. It was a scholarship that was really it was created for students who had gone through trials in their adolescent, but they rose up and they still did what they had to do in school. Wow. They still led and all that. So when I saw that, I applied for it. I applied to BC, and I shared my story about what I went through with my mother and where I was and where my mind was. And I was that kid that was really involved. I was in a lot of clubs. I was in a lot of groups. I was working for the Boston Bar Association. I was I was doing a lot. And so but it was all God that opened those doors, man. Yeah. And so by the time I got to BC, it was complete opposite, but it wasn't a culture shock for me because I went to a really diverse high school. Yeah. And so it wasn't a culture shock. And so and I was thrown into ministry. Before I got to BC, man, I got phone calls of ministries there that wanted me to be their freshman rep. Oh, wow. And so I came in on campus already a part of ministry. And so, one thing that's really, I think when it comes to race and all these things, I think everyone, regardless if they're black, white, whatever, everyone has their own story and everyone has their own experience. And my experience, because of ministry and the commitment and the call on my life and what I felt my priority was, I was so focused on ministry. It's not that I didn't experience racism, but I never made it a big deal. Yeah. Because I had school, I was on scholarship. I had like 4 or 5 classes. Yeah. I was in a relationship. I was leading my local youth group at church still while I was in college. All right. Wow. And by sophomore year, I was pretty much a youth pastor in college. Wow. And I was also vice president and then president of the Multicultural Christian Fellowship at Boston College. We called it MCF, which was like a Bible study group that we all kind of got together. Can
I ask you something? It's almost like, I'm listening to your story. I'm like, it's not like you chose leadership one day, like leadership chose you.
Exactly.
So, and I think that's, the call of leadership. We leadership is for everybody, like we just said, but even just for like, people who serve in vocational ministry, it feels like that. Like, man, like this, like God called me to this, and it's a specific type of thing. But let me ask you this. How early or how young were you when you were like, no, like leadership is what I'm going to do. Leadership is who I'm a leader. Do you have a defining moment?
It would have to be there are 2 moments that stick out to me. One of them is kind of funny, and I really want to pitch it to Disney one day. That's one of my dreams. I'm not even joking. Okay. I really want to pitch like ABC Family or Disney. Wow. This is like great one. And then one of them is like, leadership came to me pretty much, I would say 7th grade. That's the very first one. 7th grade. I love community. I love people. Yeah. I love being around people. I love laughing. I love gathering people. Yeah. It was just one that's, gathering. Yeah.
Hey, shout out Gathering Podcast. Subscribe.
I love gathering. And so I remember in middle school, I was just like, there's nothing that brings the student body together. And this was my first thing. I was like, we need to just come together a little bit more. There's no central place of information. Like I was probably watching too much television, honestly, because I was like, we need like a morning show. We need like a newspaper. Like we need something that can bring this community together. Yeah. And so I kept thinking about this, and I started talking to teachers about it, and then I started talking to the principal about it. Before you know it, I had a whole newspaper. I started the whole newspaper in my middle school. I was the editor-in-chief.
Come on, you were everything.
And like I got friends together to write articles and all these different things. That was kind of like the first thing that I kind of did that was like, okay, this is leading. The second thing that I did that I was like, okay, this is a moment, right? Junior year of high school. This is why I'm telling you I got to pitch this to Disney, right? I'm not going to, you know what? This is gathering. Ain't nobody going to steal my idea over here. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, junior year of high school, like October, it's like the fall dance. And we're juniors. We're excited. It's the first year. You get to go to junior prom. It's like you're officially like part of the upperclassmen and all that. And we go to our like semi-formal type of dance. And I guess, some idiot just walks into the dance and we didn't even know who he was. We don't even know them. And I guess started like a brawl or a fight or something like that. Right? In the dance. And it had nothing to do with the junior class, nothing to do with the senior class. Actually, I don't even think it had anything to do with the student body. I think maybe it's like a friend of the student body. So our principal got so upset. The next like Monday or Tuesday, we all get an email and an announcement that she's canceling junior prom.
Come on.
So I was livid. My friends and I, we were so upset. We were like, that's unfair. This had nothing to do with the junior class. This had nothing to do with our students. Why are you canceling like our prom, like our experience? She's just like, we went to her. She said, I felt like I couldn't protect you guys at that space, and I don't ever want to be in that space again, et cetera. And then we were like, well, we understand that, but there are other measures that we can take so that you can feel that way. Even if it's like guest has to go through a different screening. We were giving so many options. She wouldn't budge. So I said, you know what? We're going to throw our own junior prom. So
saw that coming.
So I got a group of friends together. Like maybe 10 friends, and we organized it. We sold tickets. We rented a hall.
Beast right there.
So we literally pulled together all the resources from our parents. Somebody's parents was a florist. Somebody's parents own a hall. Somebody's parents own a limo company.
Oh my gosh,
Somebody's parents owned a t-shirt company. Somebody's parents could work at CVS or Staples, and everybody just started coming together. We started selling these tickets, and everybody started buying these tickets. Everybody started buying these tickets.
Where was it held?
It was held in a hall in Randolph.
So you rented everything?
We rented it all out. Somebody's dad was a DJ.
Oh my God.
It came to the point where we had teachers signing up to chaperone. But then, I'm telling you, this is why Disney needs to take this movie.
I mean, this is a movie.
This is a movie.
At least an episode of a TV show or something.
But then, guess what happens? The principal starts calling teachers one by one in her office and saying, if you chaperone this, it's not going to be a good look for you. So it was like students against principal. It was just terrible. You see, so it was like, it was just terrible.
How did it go?
It went well. No fight. Nobody came in drunk. There were no fights. No one came in drunk. King and Queen happened perfectly fine. We had photography there perfectly fine. And we plastered all the pictures on social media. And it was like, at the end of it, the next day, we ended up all getting T-shirts to go to school. It was like a Monday. It was like the prom was like on a Thursday night, I think. We all got T-shirts and we went to school, and the T-shirts was like limousine $125, suit rental, $100. Doing your own prom without your principal's approval, priceless.
Wow.
And it was just like
in your face.
It was like it was that moment. That's not the best honorable moment in my ministry.
Is that in the respect part of the book?
It should be in the respect. It was one of the mistakes. We could have went about that better, but it was a time where in hindsight, when I look at all of the strategies, when I look at all of the systems and all of the resources, how we were able to bring the community together because we were all passionate about one thing and execute something in excellence that didn't have a bad reputation to it. Right. After that, I had a stamp put on me by the student body. I had a stamp put on me by the teachers. I had a stamp put on me by the principals, not as being a bad guy, because I never disrespected anybody, but as being someone that they look up to or they look to when it came to leading the junior class. Yeah. And so that was the moments for me that was just like, okay, I'm called to leadership because this almost was too easy to do. And people started respecting what I had to say. That moment gave me seats at different tables to speak on behalf of the student body. And so,
Well, let me know when the movie comes out.
Listen, man, I got to find a script writer. So if you're a script writer out here and you trying to partner up, hit me up. I'm about this life.
That's amazing. All right. So you're living in Boston.
Yeah.
I'm from Plymouth. And Plymouth County is predominantly, it's 84.7% white. So the context I'm ministering and pastoring in is pretty much, I mean, it's predominantly white.
Yeah.
That's our context. That's our culture here. Plymouth County, South Shore, south of Boston to Cape Cod. And even Cape Cod is like that too. So predominantly white. You know, you're in Boston, and you grew up in a, you know, a diverse setting, a diverse community. And so I say that to preface kind of the rest of the conversation, because I think almost what I'd like for you to do is address my community, address white people in the midst of this tumultuous moment. What I'm seeing, and what's kind of really breaking my heart, I'm sad, I'm broken up about it, is the complicity, is it's almost like a carelessness. Obviously I'm speaking generally, but so case by case is different. But what I'm seeing on social media is defensiveness, deflection, ignorance, from people that look like me.
Yeah.
And it's breaking my heart. And I'm overwhelmed by it, saddened by it. And there's been, just to get real vulnerable, there's been nights I have not slept and nights that I've cried. And so I would love for you to speak into that for a moment, if you could. Why is there a defensiveness? Why is it? Why is there discomfort? And if you could speak into our white audience for a moment.
Yeah, one of the things is, we all have a responsibility.
Yeah.
As just mere humans. And all of us have work to do. My work is different than your work. However, it's leading all of us into a common goal.
Yeah.
And that goal is to create a society that represents Jesus in the best light. A society that is just, a society that provides equal opportunity, a society where everyone and anyone can feel safe, can feel respected, can feel loved. That's the society in which Jesus was trying to get all of us to create.
Yeah.
A society where we all can respect one another, a society where we all can share each other's burdens.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the society. And that goal is not just for the black man or the white man or the Hispanic man that goal is for the human race.
Yes. Yeah.
That goal is for the human race. And all of us individually, all of us collectively has a part in reaching that goal.
Yeah.
And for some of us, we get different grunts in it. As a black man, I receive different grunts, and as a white man, you probably receive different aspects of it. However, all of us, we have to do the work to reach the goal. Now, race, because of our country's history, because of our global history, really is not the most popular or even the most comfortable conversation topic to even talk about right now. Not just right now, but in our history. And as a generation, we have to shift that. We have to change that. We have to change that. There are reasons why people feel tense when race is brought up, but we have to shift that.
Yeah. Do you feel like we're at a crossroads right now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are in the brink of a shift.
Yeah.
And my prayer is that the shift wouldn't leave anyone that is listening right now out. We are in a space where we are shifting our perspectives as a nation. We are shifting our perspective as a society. We are shifting our perspective as a human race. That's where I choose to believe that we are. Yeah. Some days I believe it more than others, but that's what I'm seeing. I choose to hold on to the hope, and I choose to put in the work to make sure that shift is definitive for my daughter's sake. For Winston's sake, I choose to put in the work as a black man and hold you accountable as a white man to put in the work for our children's sake.
Wow.
And that's why it's so important, because race right now and the issues that we're going through as a society, it's not a black issue. Racism is not a black problem.
Yeah.
What we're going through and what we're seeing happening in our world and in our country, it's not a black problem. Right. It's a human problem.
Yeah.
It's a human problem.
That's right.
And we have to get to the point where we all have to do what Paul says in Galatians 6:2, which is share each other's burdens.
Weep with those who weep.
Weep with those who weep, mourn with those who mourn. We have to share each other's burdens and understand that this is an issue for all of us and not just some of us.
That's so good. I love how you said, we got to do this for my daughter, my son, your daughters, and your future son.
Yes.
And I think what we have to come to a place in ourselves, because obviously if we can't bring change unless we are changed.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to get to a place. Now I think I'm predominantly speaking to white people right now. We need to get to a place where we are unwilling to pass this issue on generally, because obviously we can't evaporate racism from our entire nation. Like, that's a sin problem.
Yeah.
So sin will always be here until Jesus comes back and resets and restores everything.
Yeah.
But we can do our part and come to a place where we are absolutely unwilling to pass this on to the next generation, to our kids. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I heard it said, the reason why we're still really wrestling with this in our nation today is because, quite frankly, I don't say this to demonize or dishonor at all the previous generations, but we're still dealing with this because they didn't deal with it in a way.
Yeah.
And we kind of forget that segregation wasn't that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my dad was 5 years old when the first African-American girl was in a all-white school. My dad was 5. Like, that's one generation ago. But I think the perspective for a lot of white people, if I can just speak honestly, for a lot of white people in our context is we're not in a racist society. This isn't really a problem anymore. But I want to just say to that person that thinks that way, this was not that long ago before that black people had to sit in the back of the bus.
Yeah. And the other thing is, we are still having these problems.
We are.
They're just repackaged differently.
Wow.
We are losing innocent black lives. We are experiencing overt racism.
We are.
It's because of the times. The times are different. And so they're repackaged. Instead of someone being lynched right now, we're seeing it happening on social media.
Yep.
It's all being repackaged. And so though it may be decades ago that certain things were happening, but similar acts that brings about similar pain, similar injustices are still happening right now.
Absolutely.
And so that's an indicator that a lot hasn't really changed. You can pass a law, you can pass a bill, you can put things in writing. However, if we're not seeing real evidence of it being implemented in our society, what good is it?
Wow.
What good is it? What good is it for there to be certain things that are put into place and we know that people in authority or people that are responsible to respect these laws, they're not following it. They're not following it. And so that shows us that it's still a problem and it's still an issue.
I love how you said it's repackaged. What does that repackaging look like today?
Repackaging looks like, I think with all this stuff that we are experiencing as a society with police brutality and repackaging right now looks like social media. It's so interesting right now because with social media, our generation now, we carry so much power, but also it's like, I actually have more than one eye. More than two eyes right now because of social media.
Wow.
It's like at the end of the day, I'm looking at everything that's happening everywhere. When you think about your father's generation, it's like in order for us to hear what would have happened or your grandfather's generation, we had to read it in a newspaper. We sometimes we barely could see pictures of what's really happening.
Right.
We have to wait till it hits the 6 o'clock news to see. But now I can find out what's going on in Atlanta right now immediately. Right. And so everything is being completely repackaged in front of us so we can actually see the truth. But also Now it's happening in the form of, George Floyd. It's happening in the form of Breonna Taylor. It's happening in different ways. Whereas in the past, it was happening in the forms of people being lynched and people being killed differently. And you never really saw those pictures, right? You never really saw those videos. They didn't really come out like that. But now everything is all up in our face. It's being repackaged, and because it's repackaged and it's represented to us in that way. This is why we're seeing what we're seeing right now.
Wow.
And honestly, Caleb, I don't think what we're seeing right now is I don't think it's a spike in crime or it's a spike in racism. I think it has always been happening.
It's always been there.
And now, because of the age that we're in, it's now coming to the forefront. And that's what I mean when I say it's all being repackaged.
It's true. And I think obviously one conversation isn't going to bring full healing to this whole thing. It's taken hundreds of years to get here.
Yeah.
So it's going to take some time. It's going to like, I love how you said you're going to hold me accountable to put in the work to make sure our collective voices are being raised to see justice. But to someone, right, because what I'm seeing too is there's a lot of statistics and people spewing facts and saying, see, this shows that we're not a racist society.
Yeah.
So, and I think if we were just to look at those facts, white people are, I'm just going to speak honestly, white people are using them to almost justify any kind of conversation they'll actually have with someone of color. So what I was just talking about with my dad today was there's a difference between statistics and stories.
Yeah.
And statistics might say something, but statistics can't show stories.
Yeah.
And so what's so helpful is sitting across the table like we're doing right now and having a conversation, asking questions, taking the humble position to learn, to seek to understand, to lay any ideology, defensiveness aside and just hear.
Yeah.
I think right now, especially if you're a white leader listening, I'm going to urge and implore you to, in this historical moment, lead more with your ear than you're leading with your voice.
Yeah.
Ask the questions. And would you say that's where we need to do right now instead of spewing facts, listening?
I couldn't agree with you more. I did maybe 2 weeks ago, I put out a video on for any leader who hasn't spoken up or said anything about what's happening. Yeah. And one of the things on there that I said is that we all need to understand that this is not a season for us to just spew out our knowledge and our opinions and our thoughts. This is also a season for us to learn and for us to grow and educate ourselves. There is a lot for me to learn as a black man. As a black man right now, when everything was happening, because of how I muted a lot of my experiences, because I was so focused on ministry. And I didn't want to focus on it because of how I had to go back and learn. I had to hear my wife's stories. I had to hear my spiritual children's stories and my youth leaders' stories about their experiences. I had to go back and think about, oh man, I remember this time when a friend of mine was trying to tell me how, he was just being mistreated, and I could have paid a little bit more attention. I had to learn. I had to go back and I had to read and I had to educate myself on not just the statistics, but the experiences of the people in my community. And that's me as a black man. And I believe that's the same thing for, white men and white women. And that's everybody's, that's the expectation I personally have for anyone that I'm connected to, that this is a season where you have to learn, you have to educate yourself, and it is okay. It is okay. And education is not just pulling up an article. I love you because I think I'm gonna get emotional for this, but like you're one of my few white friends that when everything was going on, you texted me, you called me, and you said, your level of honesty and your level of care was so authentic. And what you said in your text message, I'll never forget it. You just said, what can I do? What should I do right now? I feel so terrible. And as a white man, what can I do? Yeah. And it didn't come as a space just for you to feel good that you were hitting. I didn't feel that you were trying to feel good because you're hitting up another Black leader. But it's just like, is there anything that you think that I could be doing right now that I don't know of? Yeah. And that spoke so much volumes to me. And not only did you text, but you called. It spoke volumes to me. And I think that's a part of education. Yeah. It's not just about reading everything. It's not just about seeing all the riots and all the stuff that's happening on CNN. It's not just about the articles that are being put out, but it's about having honest and open conversations with one another in a space of care and in a space of intent, but also in a space of just openness. Yeah. Of just openness and to say, you know what? And we were able to have that conversation and say, you know what, I think this is what, I think every white leader needs to do right now. I think this is, in my opinion, this is what needs to happen. Yeah. We're able to come together on that. Yeah. And if I were to speak to the 84.7% in Plymouth right now, I would say this is a season for you to learn. This is a season for you to grow. And I would say to them that it starts with you. Yep. It starts with you as an individual, making sure that your heart is one of the best representations of God's heart. Yeah. Towards his Black sons and his Black daughters. Yeah. Towards his Hispanic sons, his Hispanic daughters. Mm-hmm. That you make sure it starts with you. Then you make sure that you hold your house accountable. Yeah. Yeah. You hold your home accountable. You hold your family accountable to make sure that their hearts is the best representation of God's heart. Each and every single day they wake up. Yeah. It may not be the best every day, but every day can be better than yesterday. Yeah. And so, you make sure that, and while you're doing that, you have to lend your voice to policies, to systems, to things that are happening in your society that is not a representation of the society God is calling us to have. Right. Right. And those are the three things. It starts with you, your house, and then making sure while you're getting your house in order, while you're getting you in order, you're making sure that your society, you're making sure that your community, you're making sure that your church, whether it's your school community, whether it's your church community, whether it's your city, you're making sure that it is implementing policies and change. You're holding your leaders accountable to making sure that your society is the best representation of the society God has called us to have. And God has called us to have a just, a loving society. God has called us to have a society that offers equal opportunity. Yeah. God has called us to have a society that's forgiving and loving, that is understanding of one another. God is calling us to have a society that is safe for all citizens. Yeah. And that is our duty, not as a white man, as a Black man, that is our duty. That's right. That's our responsibility. That's our responsibility. Make it personal. I love you said it starts with you. Yeah. It starts with your heart. And I think if you're listening, it's as sober as asking yourself, is there anything possibly within me? Absolutely. Prejudice? Is there any maybe subtle or even maybe subconscious racism that I don't know? And I love that the Psalm 139, search me, O God. Test me. Come on. Look, search within my heart and expose any wicked ways. And I think that it starts, we can't bring change unless we be changed. And that's the call of Christianity. Yeah. We're changed. Yeah. We're changed, period. But there's also a comma. Yeah. We're changed, but changing. Yeah. And so to ask yourself, is there anything in me that needs to be uprooted is a biblical idea. And I would say, Caleb, it's like, I would say don't ignore it. I would say don't ignore it because, I've talked to a lot of people that when they realize that there might be some biases, there might be some thoughts, there might be some subconscious things in there that may not necessarily be right. The easy thing is to ignore it and run away from it. No, No, it's time. It's time to address it, because we can't allow our society to develop microaggressions anymore. Mm-hmm. We can't allow our society to continue to not address the elephant in the room.
That's right.
And I'll go deeper and say, you can't allow yourself as an individual, if you do feel that some things inside your heart is not right, you can't allow yourself to pass it on to the next generation. You allowing yourself to do that can be setting your community back a couple hundred years. Yeah. And this is the time to address it. It's like exactly what you said. The enemy invades what you avoid. Yep. And race and racial tension and injustice cannot be avoided, not in our society and not in you as an individual. Or else we risk the danger of passing it on to our sons and our daughters. And I'm making it a priority that my daughter doesn't have to sit here and have this conversation in 20 years, in 25 years. So I'm making it a priority that Winston and Robin doesn't have to get together and figure out how they're going to get their communities to come together.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to take care of it.
So sober.
We have to take care of it now, and we have to make sure we don't avoid it, because even though we think we're avoiding it, we're passing it on unless we address it.
Yeah. Wow. That's heavy and that's sobering, and it's what needs to be said right now. It's timely. So thank you for that. I want to ask you this, maybe kind of in closing. Like I said, obviously one conversation isn't going to heal all these wounds that are so deep-rooted and communal and passed on. So do you have any thoughts about what are contributors or factors that would lead to a healing? Because I'm with you. I am unwilling. And just to be clear with you, and I want you to hold me accountable to this, this one conversation isn't just going to be one reaction to what happened to George Floyd.
Yeah.
A year from now, 2 years, 3 years from now, 10 years from now, we will still have this conversation. And I am going to be much more intentional than I ever have been moving forward. And so that being said, there's this unwillingness to pass this on to the next generation. What are some of those key factors, key contributors, maybe some practical things we can do to see real change?
Yeah. Change is not going to happen with one conversation. We are friends, we talk, and this is just one aspect of our community and our society, right? In order for change to really happen, I think it goes back to us continuously. We need to continually go before those that we lead and those that are in our communities and hold them accountable to make sure that their heart is in the right place and to make sure that exactly what I said earlier is to make sure that they're good and individually, that their home, they're holding it accountable to be good individually, and they're holding their society, their community individually. And, to address the church, it is really important that the predominantly white churches in this time provide their congregations, their community, with the opportunity to hear different voices and different leaders. We have to make sure that our communities hear one another so they can get a chance to honor one another.
That's right.
We have to make sure they can understand the different perspectives, just like what we're doing today.
Right.
We have to make sure that we open the floor. We have to make sure that we provide the adequate education that comes from the right people.
That's right.
And I think that's really something that's going to lead us into a better place of understanding, which ultimately will lead us to a better place of healing. I think a lot of the spaces that our society is hurting in right now is because of a lack of understanding. The word says that we perish because of ignorance, and I think it's because a lot of us just don't understand, or we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know. There's an ignorance there. There's a lack of knowledge there that allows racism to continue, that allows injustice to continue, that allows, the unfair treatment of African Americans to continue. Right. And when we make it our responsibility, when you say as a white man that, it's not okay for me to watch my black friends or my black brother It's not okay for me to watch them being mistreated and just being victimized. It's not okay. And you take it upon yourself to educate your community.
Yeah.
And make sure that it's in partnership and it's in unity with Black voices. That will bring us to a space of greater understanding. And I think that's what our society needs right now. Our society needs prayer like never before.
Come on.
This is something that we need to not just talk about, read about, discuss. This is something that we need to go on our knees and cry out. If my people who are called by my name, like our land is in dire need of healing.
Yeah.
So if we would humble ourselves and seek the face of the Lord, if we would humble ourselves and lose our opinions and lose our pride for a bit and seek God's face and turn from our wicked ways, that wicked way is going to be found when we actually search our hearts and we can actually pinpoint sin within our hearts that may not necessarily be overt and everyday, but it's hidden inside of our hearts. When we turn away from our wicked ways and seek the face of the Lord and actually cry out for him to heal our land. And the thing that's going to make this even more powerful is the way that I'm crying out as a Black man is the way you're crying out as a white man.
Yeah. Yeah.
My burden, what brings tears to my eyes, I sat on my couch at 11 o'clock at night and watched George Floyd die on my phone for 8 minutes. And that brought tears to my eyes. Yeah. When I went into prayer, there was another level of passion. There was another level of, there was another burden that was just added on me that wasn't there before. Something about George Floyd shifted me.
Yeah.
Something about him shifted something about it just completely shifted me. And so it led me to enter prayer differently. Yeah. And so when we can come together and we can humble ourselves, we can turn away from wickedness and we can pray together for God to heal our land. I believe prayer will heal our land before policy heal our land.
Wow.
And policy changing is needed. It's like policy changing and making sure that there is fairness and equal opportunity for every single person that is upon this land is absolutely important.
So policy and prayer working in tandem.
They have to work together. Yeah. They have to work together. Faith without works is dead. And I don't believe that we can just come into the church and just pray and pray and pray and pray and not go out and vote and not go out and petition and not go out and protest against things that are outwardly wrong.
That's right.
They go hand in hand.
They do.
They go hand in hand. And the way we're going to get healing is, one, we have to pray. I think that's the order.
Come on.
Prayer comes first. Yeah. We have to pray. We have to turn away from wickedness, and then we have to act. We have to vote. We have to march. We have to petition, and we have to continue to bring exposure to the injustices that are residing in our society. Yeah. And we have to hold our leaders accountable. We have to hold lawmakers accountable. We have to hold elected officials accountable to what they have promised that they're going to do, but also to what is right.
That's right.
To what is right. And we have to do that at every single level. We have to do it at the local level. We have to do it statewide. We have to do it nationally.
That's right.
And when we continue to do that, and we don't just do it alone, and we do it in coercion with prayer, I think we're really going to begin to see change.
That's so good.
But ultimately, it starts with you. It starts with you as an individual, and you holding yourself and your heart accountable and being honest with you and God.
One final question, and I think I can see it in your eyes, but are you hopeful?
I'm absolutely hopeful. Caleb, I can't not be hopeful in this time.
Right.
Because, we started off this podcast with sharing the story about my mom.
Yeah.
What I didn't share is that my mom pretty much came this close to taking my life.
Wow.
And, she was going through so much pain and sickness, and I woke up late one day for school. She worked an overnight. She wasn't expecting me for me to be home, and I was home. And she was so upset that I missed the bus for school. She pulled out a knife and ran me to a corner and had a knife in my face. Wow. And something about it was God. There was a struggle there to literally stab me in my face, but something about it, she couldn't push the knife close to my face.
Wow.
And she just dropped it and she told me to get out, and I ran out. And, you know, a lot of the terrible experiences I faced as a child, when I got married and I started to have children, I promised God that I would be the best father I knew how to be. You know, I promised God that I would raise up my daughters and my sons to fear him, to love him, and I would be the best example to them, and the best godly example that I could be to them. So, you know, with all of this happening, I don't see myself not having hope because of what I promised God. I don't see myself not having hope for my daughter's sake. I don't see myself not having hope for Winston's sake. I don't see myself not having hope because when I leave this earth and I hear well done, I know God has my daughter, but I also want to know that I've left her in a society that is better than when she entered.
That's right.
And so this conversation, my prayers, and the times that I fast, and this book, this is all trying to create a better society for the next generation, better leaders for the next generation. You know, this is trying to create a safer space of opportunity for the next generation. Everything shifted once my children came into the world. Because I realized it's not just about where God is calling me. God only brought me here because God was calling them somewhere.
Wow. Yeah.
And I have to have hope that our country is going to change. I have to have hope that our society is shifting and is changing, because I can't afford to leave this earth and have her go through what I went through.
Wow.
Because my ceiling is her floor. So I have to break the ceiling. We have to break the ceiling of racism over our society so our kids can stand higher and so they can reach higher heights.
Now is the time.
Now is the time.
Now is the time. I'm stirred. I'm challenged. I'm encouraged. And I know all of our listeners are as well. Thank you so much for your vulnerability, your honesty, and even this prophetic moment, a prophetic word that you've spoken into this podcast, into all of our listeners right now. I honor you.
Thank you.
I love you. Thank you for being here. And thank you for being my big brother.
Love you too, man. Thank you for having me. This was necessary.
Yeah, it was.
This was necessary.
Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, at Pierre. You could find me on YouTube, Twitter, at Pierre. You could go on my website for more information, robersonpierre.com.
Awesome.
And I'm at Jubilee Christian Church every Sunday.
There you go.
Find me there.
Stay tuned with Roberson, Pierre, and Jubilee Church, and make sure you go get your copy of Target today on Amazon or his website, and be blessed by that. Again, thank you so much. Thank you so much to all of our listeners. Just again, please subscribe. Please share this podcast episode. If you've been blessed, share it with somebody else. And I know that we can see change. We will and must. It's not that we should change. It's that we must change.
Absolutely.
So again, thank you. God bless. And we will see you next week. Peace.
Peace.